The scent of brewing coffee and old paper was Ilara's favorite perfume. It clung to her soft wool cardigan and nestled in the strands of her dark, wavy hair, a comforting presence she carried through the quiet streets of Oakhaven each morning. Her bookstore, the Cosmic Corner, was more than just a place of business. It was a sanctuary, a haven of stories and whispered dreams, tucked away on the edge of town where the paved road gave way to cobblestones and the murmur of the river Oakhaven flowed perpetually. Oakhaven itself was a town built on serenity. Nestled deep in a valley, cradled by ancient, tree-covered mountains, its claim to fame wasn't a bustling industry or a historical landmark, but rather its extraordinary dark skies. Far from the light pollution of cities, Oakhaven was a stargazer's paradise, a place where the Milky Way unfurled like a shimmering silk ribbon on clear nights, and constellations blazed with an intensity that took your breath away. Ilara, despite living here her whole life, still felt a thrill when she looked up. She ran her fingers over the spine of a new arrival, a first edition of a forgotten poet, before turning to open the cafe section of her shop. The gentle hum of the espresso machine joined the soft morning light filtering through the window panes, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air like tiny golden fairies. It was a Tuesday, typically a slow day. She imagined she'd spend it as usual, serving a handful of regulars, losing herself in the pages of a new novel, and perhaps, if the sky was clear, stepping outside after closing to greet the first shy stars. Her routine was a comforting blanket, woven with threads of predictability and quiet joy. It suited her. Ilara was not one for grand gestures or boisterous company. She preferred the intimate hum of a good conversation, the silent communion with a compelling book, and the vast, silent spectacle of the cosmos. Then the bell above the door chimed, a sound that usually heralded Mrs. Gable for her morning Earl Grey or young Finn seeking his next fantasy adventure. But this time, the scent that followed the chime wasn't Mrs. Gable's lavender sachet, nor Finn's faint smell of playgrounds. It was something new, a hint of crisp autumn air, a subtle woodsy cologne, and something else. He stood just inside the doorway, silhouetted against the bright morning light. Tall, with broad shoulders encased in a worn denim jacket, and a head of tousled dark hair that looked like he'd just run his fingers through it, in exasperation or excitement. He looked around the shop, his gaze sweeping over the towering bookshelves, the cozy reading nooks, and finally settling on Ilara. His eyes, she noticed now, were a startling shade of hazel, flecked with gold, and held a depth that seemed to see more than just a barista in a bookstore. "Good morning," he said, his voice a low, warm rumble that seemed to vibrate through the quiet space. It wasn't loud, but it commanded attention. "Is this the Cosmic Corner?" Ilara felt a faint blush creep up her neck. She pushed a stray curl behind her ear. "It is," she managed, her voice a little softer than she intended. "Can I help you?" He offered a hesitant smile, and it transformed his face, softening the rugged angles and revealing a hint of boyish charm. "I hope so. I'm looking for the best coffee in Oakhaven. And perhaps a map? A local guide, maybe? I just arrived last night, and I'm a little disoriented." "You've come to the right place for coffee," Ilara said, moving behind the counter. "As for maps, we have a small selection of local interest books near the history section. What kind of map are you looking for?" "Something that shows hiking trails, maybe good vantage points for—" "Well, for observation," he replied, his gaze flickering towards the large window where the distant mountains were visible. "And a good general overview of the area. I'm going to be here for a while." "Observation?" Ilara asked, intrigued. "Are you a bird watcher or an artist?" He chuckled, a rich, pleasant sound. "Something like that. More like a night sky observer, I suppose. I'm an astrophotographer. The name's Liam." He extended a hand across the counter. Ilara took it. His grip was firm, warm, and her hand felt small and delicate within his. "Ilara, and it's a pleasure to meet you, Liam. An astrophotographer? So you're the one everyone's been talking about." Liam raised an eyebrow, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. "Everyone? I thought Oakhaven was a quiet town." "It is," Ilara confirmed, withdrawing her hand, a pleasant warmth lingering. "But new faces, especially ones who are here for a long stay, are big news. Mrs. Gable mentioned a city man with expensive cameras was renting the old Miller cabin for the season." Liam laughed again. "That would be me, and the expensive cameras are definitely part of the package. I'm here to capture Oakhaven's famed dark skies. It's a project I've been planning for years." "That's wonderful," Elara said, genuinely pleased. The idea of someone dedicating their time to capturing the beauty of her town's night sky resonated deeply with her own quiet appreciation. "What can I get you to drink, Liam?" "Just a strong black coffee, please. And if you have any pastries, something simple." As she prepared his coffee, Elara found herself stealing glances at him. He had a way of looking at the bookshelves, at the quiet corners of her shop, as if seeing hidden stories in every spine and shadow. He seemed to carry an air of quiet intensity, but his smile was disarmingly open. "So, the Cosmic Corner," Liam said, accepting his coffee and a croissant. "A fitting name for a town like Oakhaven and for someone interested in the stars." "My grandmother named it," Elara explained, a fond smile touching her lips. She loved the idea that books could transport you to other worlds, other cosmos. And she was a firm believer in the magic of the night sky. "I like that," Liam mused, taking a sip of his coffee. He closed his eyes for a moment, savoring it. "This is excellent, Elara. Truly, you weren't kidding." "Thank you," she said, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. Compliments on her coffee were always welcome. "And the map books are on the second shelf, left of the fireplace." Liam nodded, picked up his croissant, and wandered towards the specified section. Elara watched him, a strange flutter in her stomach. Oakhaven was a town of familiar rhythms, and Liam was a new, unexpected beat. Over the next few days, Liam became a regular fixture at the Cosmic Corner. He'd arrive early, just after Elara opened, sometimes with a laptop, sometimes with a sketchbook, always with a quiet intensity that drew her eye. He'd order the same strong black coffee, sometimes a different pastry, and settle into a corner nook by the window, where he could look out at the mountains or simply observe the gentle ebb and flow of the town. He wasn't intrusive, never demanding attention, but Elara found herself anticipating his arrival. She learned he was meticulous in his work, spending hours planning his shots, studying weather patterns, and researching the specific celestial events visible from Oakhaven. He spoke of nebulae in vivid colors, of galaxies spiraling like cosmic dancers, and of the quiet patience required to capture a single, perfect photograph of a distant star. One afternoon, a torrential rainstorm had trapped them both inside the shop, the rhythmic drumming of rain against the roof creating a cozy, intimate atmosphere. Liam was sketching in his notebook, and Elara was tidying a shelf of poetry. "You know," Liam said, without looking up from his sketch, "I never expected a bookstore cafe to feel so profound. It's like a quiet universe in here." Elara smiled, arranging a stack of paperbacks. "Profound? That's a high compliment. I just try to make it a place where people feel at home, where they can find a little magic." He finally looked up, his hazel eyes meeting hers. "You succeed. There's a certain stillness here, a sense of wonder that I don't often find. It reminds me of looking through a telescope, actually. That moment of quiet anticipation before you find what you're looking for." "And what are you looking for, Liam?" Elara asked, her voice soft, drawn into the unexpected intimacy of the conversation. He paused, then gestured vaguely with his pencil. "The perfect shot. The one that truly captures the immense beauty and mystery of the cosmos. Something that makes people pause and just feel small in the best possible way. And maybe something else. Something I haven't quite articulated yet." He looked out at the rain-streaked window, a thoughtful expression on his face. "This town, these skies, they're special. They hold a lot of secrets, I think." Elara felt a thrill. She understood that sentiment. Oakhaven did hold secrets, quiet ones, woven into the fabric of its ancient trees and its star-dusted nights. "Do you ever go out to look at the stars yourself, Elara?" Liam asked, turning his gaze back to her, a curious glint in his eyes. "Sometimes," she admitted. "After the shop closes if it's clear. I have a favorite spot just outside of town, near the old oak grove. It's truly spectacular there." "I've been scouting locations," Liam said, his voice taking on a more professional yet still warm tone. "The oak grove is indeed prime. I was thinking of setting up there next week, weather permitting, to try and capture the Perseids shower." Elara's eyes widened. "The Perseids? I forgot it was so soon. That's always a sight to behold." She hadn't actively planned to go this year, but the thought of it now, combined with Liam's presence, sparked a new kind of excitement. "It is," he agreed. And it requires patience, hours of waiting, sometimes in the cold, for that one perfect meteor to streak across the frame. But when you get it, he trailed off, a distant, almost reverent look in his eyes. It's worth it. I can imagine, Alara murmured. She found herself drawn to his passion, the way his eyes lit up when he spoke of his work. It was an infectious kind of wonder. Days turned into a week, and the rain finally abated, giving way to crisp, clear autumn nights. The air crackled with the promise of cold and the brilliance of the impending meteor shower. Liam spent his mornings in the shop, poring over star charts and weather forecasts, and his afternoons preparing his formidable array of equipment. Alara, in turn, found herself looking up at the sky more often, checking the clarity, feeling a growing anticipation for the proceeds. One evening, as Alara was locking up the cosmic corner, the faint glow of twilight painting the sky in hues of lavender and rose, Liam approached her from the street, a thermos in one hand and a small, worn, leather-bound book in the other. "Alara," he said, his voice a little softer than usual. "I was just heading out to the oak grove. The sky looks perfect tonight. I thought, if you were planning on going, maybe we could share the view. I have an extra blanket, and this book might be interesting." He held up the book. It was a collection of ancient myths and legends about constellations. Alara's heart did a little flip. She hadn't expected this. She'd thought about going, of course, but hadn't quite committed. The idea of going with Liam, of sharing that quiet, profound experience, was suddenly very appealing. "I'd like that very much, Liam," she said, a genuine smile spreading across her face. "Let me just grab a thicker coat, and maybe some cookies." "Perfect," he grinned, and that open, charming smile sent a warmth through her. "I'll wait for you." A few minutes later, bundled in warm coats and carrying a small bag of her homemade shortbread cookies, Alara joined Liam. They walked together, the silence between them comfortable, companionable. The air grew colder with each step away from the town, and the stars, already beginning to pepper the darkening canvas above, grew brighter, bolder. The oak grove was a sacred place in Oak Haven. Ancient, gnarled oaks, centuries old, formed a natural amphitheater, their branches reaching up like silent, welcoming arms. In the center, a clearing offered an unobstructed view of the sky. Liam had already set up his telescope and cameras, an impressive array of technology that looked almost alien against the rustic backdrop. "Wow," Alara breathed, looking up. The Milky Way was already a faint smudge, hinting at the spectacular show to come. "It's even better than I remember." Liam smiled, his gaze following hers. "It always is. The sky has a way of humbling you, doesn't it?" He spread out a thick wool blanket on the ground near his equipment. "Here, make yourself comfortable. I'll get the thermos." They settled onto the blanket, the cold seeping into the ground, but kept at bay by the thick wool. Liam poured 2 steaming cups of hot chocolate from the thermos, and Alara offered him a shortbread cookie, which he accepted with a grateful nod. "These are delicious," he said, after taking a bite. "You're full of hidden talents, Alara." "Just a good recipe," she demurred, but his praise made her chest swell with a quiet pleasure. She took a sip of her hot chocolate, the warmth spreading through her. The sky was now a velvet cloak, studded with diamonds. The first faint streaks of meteors began to appear, fleeting whispers of light across the vastness. "There's one," Alara exclaimed, pointing. Liam chuckled. "Good eye. They'll get more frequent as the night progresses." He adjusted something on his camera, then settled back down. He didn't immediately look through his telescope, preferring to simply observe the naked eye view, just like Alara. They sat in comfortable silence for a long time, watching the celestial fireworks. Alara felt a sense of peace she rarely experienced, even in her beloved bookstore. Sharing this moment with Liam, a man she barely knew but felt an undeniable connection to, was surprisingly easy. There was no need for small talk, no pressure to fill the quiet. Just the vastness of the universe and the gentle warmth of shared wonder. "You know," Alara said softly, breaking the silence, "my grandmother used to tell me stories about the constellations. She said each star had a secret, a story to tell if you only listened closely enough." Liam turned his head, his profile illuminated by the faint glow of his camera's screen. "She sounds like a wise woman. I believe that. Every photon that reaches us from a distant star has traveled for millions of years, carrying the history of its existence. It's a story in itself. He picked up the leather-bound book he'd brought. This book, it's full of those kinds of stories. Greek myths, Native American legends, how different cultures interpreted the same patterns in the sky. He opened it to a page. Listen to this one, about Cassiopeia, the vain queen. He began to read, his voice a low, melodic murmur under the vast dome of the night sky. Elara listened, captivated, not just by the ancient tale, but by the sound of his voice, the way the starlight seemed to catch in his dark hair. It was a perfect moment, suspended in time, under the watchful gaze of a million stars. After a while, Liam closed the book, his gaze sweeping across the sky again. Sometimes when I'm out here, alone, it can feel a little isolating, like you're just a tiny speck in an incomprehensibly large universe. He paused, then looked at Elara, a vulnerability in his eyes she hadn't seen before. But tonight, with someone else to share it with, it feels less lonely, more connected. Elara's heart skipped a beat. She felt it too, that profound sense of connection. I know what you mean, she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. Oakhaven is a small town, and I've always been content with my quiet life. But sometimes even here, you can feel apart. Tonight, though, she trailed off, unable to articulate the exact feeling. It was a warmth, a sense of belonging, not just to the earth or the stars, but to this moment with him. Liam reached out, his hand gently brushing hers where it rested on the blanket. His touch was light, tentative, but sent a shiver through her. Thank you for coming, Elara, he said, his voice soft, almost intimate. It means a lot. She met his gaze, and for a long moment, the world seemed to shrink to just the two of them, framed by the infinite expanse above. The meteors continued their silent dance, a cosmic backdrop to an unfolding human connection. A shooting star blazed brightly across the sky, leaving a vivid trail of light, as if underscoring the magic of the moment. Elara felt a quiet wish form in her heart, one she hadn't known she harbored until now. A wish for more nights like this, more shared silences, more glimpses into the soul of this intriguing man. Liam eventually turned back to his equipment, making a few adjustments, his movements deliberate. I need to get some more long exposures, he explained, his voice returning to its more professional timbre, though the warmth lingered. But I hope you'll stay and watch a while longer. The show is just getting started. Elara nodded, pulling her coat tighter. I wouldn't miss it for the world. She watched him work, his focus intense, yet still aware of her presence. The night air grew colder, but a new kind of warmth bloomed within Elara. A gentle, hopeful warmth that had nothing to do with the hot chocolate or the thick blanket. It was the warmth of a nascent connection, sparked under the starlight, promising to illuminate something beautiful. She leaned back, gazing up, the stories of the stars now intertwined with a new, unfolding story of her own. She leaned back, gazing up, the stories of the stars now intertwined with a new, unfolding story of her own. Leo, having made the final adjustments, straightened up and turned to her, a soft smile playing on his lips. There, Jupiter and its Galilean moons. And if you look closely, that faint fuzzy patch near Orion's belt, that's the Great Orion Nebula, a stellar nursery. His voice was low, laced with a quiet reverence that Elara found utterly captivating. He spoke of cosmic wonders as if they were old friends, and in doing so, made her feel like a welcome guest in his universe. It's breathtaking, Elara whispered, her gaze still fixed on the eyepiece. Then she pulled away, blinking to adjust her eyes to the ambient starlight. Thank you, Leo. Truly. This was more magical than I could have imagined. He chuckled, a warm sound in the cool night. The universe does most of the work. I just point the way. He began to gently cover the telescope, securing it against the night air. Are you all right for warmth? I can make another round of hot chocolate if you'd like. Elara pulled the blanket tighter around her, a genuine smile gracing her lips. I'm perfectly warm, thank you. This blanket is doing its job and, well, the hot chocolate certainly helped earlier. She didn't add that his company was the most effective warmth of all. As he finished covering the telescope, he turned back to her, his hands tucked into his pockets. The moonlight caught the silver threads in his dark hair, making him seem both wise and a little boyish at the same time. I'm glad you came, Elara. It was nice to share this with someone who appreciates it. His gaze was direct, earnest, and it made her heart do a little skip I wouldn't have missed it, she repeated, her voice softer this time. It's been a long time since I felt such wonder. She hesitated, then added, It's usually the kind of feeling I get when I'm drawing, when a new idea sparks. But this was different. Bigger. Leo nodded slowly, understanding in his eyes. There's a profound interconnectedness to everything, isn't there? The dust of stars in our own bones, the stories we tell under them. Art and science, they're just different lenses for seeing the same grand design. Elara found herself nodding in agreement, a comfortable silence settling between them. It was late, the world around them hushed, save for the distant hoot of an owl. The stars seemed brighter now, not just distant pinpricks, but beacons of shared experience. I should probably head back, Elara finally said, a reluctant note in her voice. It's getting late, and I have a deadline looming. Of course. Leo walked her to the edge of the observatory, the path illuminated by a soft, warm glow from the building. Thank you again for coming. And for the company. Thank you, Leo, for the incredible tour. It was truly special. She stopped at the small gate, turning to face him. The moment hung in the air, charged with unspoken possibility. Perhaps, if you're ever curious about another celestial body, or just fancy a chat, feel free to stop by during the day, he offered. His voice a little lighter, a hint of shyness in his eyes. Elara's smile widened. I might just take you up on that. Good night, Leo. Good night, Elara. She walked down the winding path, the blanket still draped around her shoulders, its soft wool imbued with the scent of the cool night air and a faint, comforting trace of his presence. Each step felt lighter than before, as if the stardust had settled not just on her eyelashes, but deep within her soul. The cottage, when she finally reached it, felt warmer, cozier, no longer just a haven from the world, but a place where new, hopeful dreams could take root. Inside, she made a cup of herbal tea, but her mind was far from the soothing ritual. She pictured Leo's earnest gaze through the telescope, the way his hand had gestured to the sky, the quiet passion in his voice. She found herself sketching, not the usual whimsical characters of her children's books, but abstract swirls of starlight, nebulae in deep blues and purples, and a small, lone figure looking up at them. Sleep came easily that night, filled with dreams of distant galaxies and a gentle, knowing smile. Oh, wait. Leo too found himself lingering after Elara had left. He secured the observatory, turning off the lights, and stood for a moment in the darkness, the silence profound. He replayed their conversation, the way her eyes had lit up, her genuine wonder. Most people came to the observatory with a fleeting curiosity, a desire for a quick glimpse, but Elara had absorbed it, felt it. She saw the poetry in the science, the stories in the stars. It was rare, and he found himself drawn to it. He thought of her quiet strength, the artistic spark he sensed within her, her soft laugh. He hadn't felt this kind of connection in a long time, maybe ever. He went to bed with a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with the chilly night air, and everything to do with the unexpected joy of shared stargazing. Oh, why? The next morning, Elara awoke to the gentle chirping of birds and the soft glow of pre-dawn light filtering through her bedroom window. A sense of lightness, a quiet hum of happiness, accompanied her as she made her coffee. Her usual morning routine, which often felt like a solitary pursuit, now carried a subtle undertone of possibility. She looked out at the rolling hills, at the observatory perched on the distant rise, and a smile touched her lips. Her work for the day was focused on a new children's book project, a story about a brave little badger who dreams of exploring the world beyond his burrow. She needed to design a new forest setting, something magical and inviting. She spread out her sketchbooks, but found her mind wandering, tracing the lines of distant constellations. Her badger, she realized, needed to look up at the stars. Later that morning, Elara found herself pacing her small studio, a half-finished sketch of a starry sky on her easel. She needed inspiration for a specific kind of star, one that would guide her little badger on his journey. Not just any star, but one with a story, a personality. Suddenly, an idea sparked. She pulled on a light jacket, grabbed her satchel, and set off on the familiar winding road towards the observatory. It wasn't a formal visit, she told herself. Just a quick question. A technical detail for her illustration. A perfectly valid reason to see Leo. The observatory grounds were quiet in the daylight. The telescope, she knew, would be sleeping, covered and protected. She found Leo in a small office, surrounded by screens displaying complex graphs and data, and shelves overflowing with books. He looked up as she tapped on the open doorframe, a surprised but welcoming smile spreading across his face. "Elara, good morning. To what do I owe the pleasure?" His tone was friendly, relaxed. "Good morning, Leo," she replied, feeling a blush creep up her neck. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything important." He waved a dismissive hand. "Nothing that can't wait. Just sifting through some data from last night's observations. Come in, please." He gestured to a comfortable armchair piled with books. He quickly cleared a space for her. "I actually had a question, a purely professional one, of course," she began, pulling out her sketchbook and flipping to the nascent starry sky. "For my new book, my little badger character needs to look up at a guiding star. I want it to be accurate, but also have a bit of, well, mythos, a story behind it. I was hoping you might have a suggestion." Leo leaned closer, his gaze falling on her sketch. His eyes lit up. "This is wonderful, Elara. You have a real talent for capturing light." He traced a finger gently over a sketched nebula. "A guiding star with a story, you say?" He paused, thinking. "Well, Polaris, the North Star, is always the classic guide, but its story is more about its steadfastness. For mythos, perhaps something from the Big Dipper. It's a very recognizable constellation, and the stars within it have various cultural tales associated with them." He pointed to a diagram on one of his screens, showing the constellation Ursa Major. "Or how about Sirius, the brightest star in our night sky, revered by many ancient civilizations? The dog star, it's a powerful beacon." Elara listened intently, her eyes sparkling. "Sirius, the dog star. That's perfect. My badger character is very loyal like a dog." She sketched furiously, making notes. "And it's so bright it would truly stand out." She looked up at him, her gratitude evident. "Thank you, Leo. That's exactly what I needed." "My pleasure," he said, genuinely pleased to have helped. "It's fascinating how you weave these elements into your stories. I've always admired illustrators and writers to create entire worlds from imagination. And yours, creating understanding from the vastness of the cosmos," she countered. "We're just telling different kinds of stories, aren't we?" He smiled, a deep, warm smile that reached his eyes. "I suppose we are. It makes me wonder, what kind of stories do you usually tell? I'd love to see some of your finished work sometime." Elara felt a pleasant flutter in her chest. "I'd be happy to show you. Perhaps, if you have some free time, you could come down to my cottage. I have a small studio there." She almost held her breath, hoping he'd say yes. "I'd like that very much," Leo replied, without a moment's hesitation. "How, this Friday evening, if you're not too busy with your deadline?" "Friday would be perfect," Elara said, relief and anticipation flooding through her. "Around 7. 7 it is. I can bring something if you'd like." "Just yourself," she said, her voice softer than intended. "And your curiosity." He chuckled. "That I always have in abundance." As she left the observatory, the sun felt brighter, the air crisper. She wasn't just going to draw a star. She was going to draw a star that a charming astronomer had helped her discover, a star that now felt imbued with a new personal significance. The thought made her step lighter all the way home. The next few days passed in a flurry of activity for Elara, but Leo remained a quiet, persistent presence in her thoughts. She found herself carefully selecting which of her children's books to display in her studio, tidying her creative chaos with a renewed sense of purpose. She even baked a batch of lemon shortbread cookies, a treat she usually reserved for special occasions. When Friday evening arrived, a soft twilight bathed the cottage in a gentle, ethereal glow. Elara dressed in a simple but elegant tunic and jeans, feeling a nervous flutter in her stomach that was both unfamiliar and exciting. At precisely 7 o'clock, a knock sounded at her door. Leo stood on her porch, holding a small brown paper bag. He looked comfortable in a dark blue shirt and jeans, his hair a little ruffled, as if he'd been running his hands through it. "Good evening, Elara. I hope these are acceptable. I wasn't sure what you might prefer." He held out the bag. "Just a small selection of artisanal cheeses from the local market. I figured they might pair well with tea or whatever you might be drinking." Elara laughed, a genuine, joyful sound. Leo, you didn't have to. But thank you, that's incredibly thoughtful. She took the bag, her fingers brushing his for a fleeting second, sending a small jolt through her. Come in, please. Her cottage, usually a sanctuary of quiet solitude, now felt vibrant and alive with his presence. He looked around with genuine interest, his gaze lingering on her colorful bookshelves and the framed illustrations on the walls. This is lovely, Alara. So much warmth and character. I can see your artistic touch everywhere. Thank you, she said, pleased. Please, make yourself comfortable. She led him into her cozy living room where a fire crackled softly in the hearth, casting dancing shadows on the walls. The aroma of lemon shortbread mingled with the faint scent of wood smoke. Fireplace! How wonderful! He exclaimed, his eyes sparkling. My place is all modern conveniences, but there's something truly special about a real fire. They settled onto her comfortable sofa, the bag of cheeses between them. Alara poured them both a cup of her favorite Earl Grey tea. So you wanted to see my work? She prompted, her heart beating a little faster. Yes, absolutely, he confirmed, his attention fully on her. Alara picked up a stack of her published books. These are a few of my favorites. This one, she began, handing him a book with a whimsical cover featuring a mischievous squirrel, is about a squirrel who tries to collect all the acorns in the forest, only to learn that sharing is far more rewarding. Leo took the book carefully, turning it over in his hands. He opened it, his gaze falling on the detailed, expressive illustrations. He took his time, turning each page slowly, his brow furrowed in concentration, a soft smile on his lips. These are truly beautiful, Alara. The expressions on the animals, the intricate details of the forest. You bring them to life. He pointed to a small hidden ladybug on one page. And the little hidden treasures. I can see why children would adore these. Alara felt a wave of pride and warmth wash over her. It's my passion, to create worlds that spark imagination and teach gentle lessons. He closed the book, setting it carefully aside, then picked up another, this one about a curious little otter. And this one? They spent the next hour talking about her work, about the story she told, the inspiration behind her characters. Leo asked insightful questions, not just surface-level compliments, but genuine inquiries into her creative process, her motivations. He seemed to truly understand the heart she poured into her art. It's amazing, he finally said, leaning back, a thoughtful expression on his face. You take these universal feelings, curiosity, bravery, friendship, and you give them form, make them tangible for young minds. In a way, it's not so different from what I do. I try to take the vast, abstract concepts of the universe and make them understandable, relatable. Alara smiled. See? 2 different lenses, same grand design? They moved on to the cheeses, slicing them and pairing them with crackers, the conversation flowing easily from her work to his. He spoke of his passion for astronomy, his desire to uncover the universe's secrets, not just for scientific advancement, but for the sheer wonder of it. He told her about the challenges of working at the observatory, the long nights, the delicate instruments, but also the profound satisfaction of a new discovery, of seeing something no human eye had ever truly perceived before. It sounds solitary sometimes, Alara mused, reaching for a shortbread cookie. All of that vastness, and just you looking at it. Leo nodded slowly. It can be, yes, but it's also a unique kind of companionship. The stars, they're always there, always waiting. And there's a community of scientists, of course, sharing data, collaborating. But yes, the moments at the eyepiece, they're often just me and the universe. He paused, then added, his gaze meeting hers. It was nice to share it with you the other night. It made the vastness feel a little less solitary. Alara felt a blush rise again, a quiet warmth spreading through her chest. I felt the same. It was a new kind of connection for me, too. They talked late into the evening, the fire dwindling to embers, the tea growing cold, but their conversation remained warm and engaging. They discovered a shared love for old detective novels, a mutual appreciation for quiet mornings, and a surprising agreement on the best way to make a perfect cup of coffee. It was in these small details, these gentle revelations, that their connection deepened, quietly and steadily. I should let you get some rest, Leo finally said, glancing at his watch. a look of genuine regret on his face. "I've kept you up far too late." "Not at all," Elara insisted. "I've truly enjoyed myself, Leo. Thank you for coming, and for the cheese." He stood, and she walked him to the door. The night air was cool, but inside, the lingering warmth of the fire and their conversation held fast. "I had a wonderful time, Elara. Thank you for sharing your beautiful world with me." He looked at her, his eyes serious and kind. "I'm really glad I met you." "Me too, Leo," she whispered, her heart feeling full. He hesitated then. Before she could fully process it, he leaned down and gently kissed her on the cheek. It was light, chaste, but it sent a shiver down her spine, a spark of something new and thrilling. "Good night, Elara." "Good night, Leo." She watched him walk down the path, his silhouette disappearing into the moonlit night. Her fingers instinctively went to her cheek, where the ghost of his lips still lingered. The evening had been even better than she had imagined. It wasn't a dramatic, sweeping romance, but a slow, gentle unfolding, like the bloom of a night-scented flower. And she felt a quiet certainty that this was just the beginning. The days that followed deepened their connection with a quiet, natural rhythm. Elara found herself sketching Leah's features into the wise, thoughtful characters in her books. A kindly old owl, a wise badger. And Leo, she imagined, saw the whimsical beauty of her illustrations in the patterns of the stars he observed. They fell into a comfortable routine of brief, delightful encounters. Sometimes, Elara would walk up to the observatory with a thermos of coffee and a fresh batch of cookies, finding Leo poring over charts, his brow furrowed in concentration. He would always greet her with a warm smile, grateful for the interruption, and they would chat about the latest celestial events or Elara's progress on her badger book. Other times, Leo would appear at her cottage door, bearing a small, interesting rock I'd found on his morning walk, or a fascinating fact about a distant galaxy that he thought she might enjoy. One crisp autumn afternoon, Elara was struggling with a particular illustration for her badger book. Her character, Barnaby, was meant to be exploring a vast, ancient forest, but Elara felt her trees looked too generic, lacking the sense of age and wonder she wanted to convey. She sighed, pushing her hair back from her face, a faint smudge of charcoal on her cheek. Just then, her phone chimed. It was a text from Leo, thinking of taking a walk through the old-growth forest near Blackwood Creek. "The light is beautiful today. Fancy some company? Perhaps some inspiration for your forest dweller?" A smile bloomed on Elara's face. It was as if he could read her mind. Perfect timing. I'm stuck on Barnaby's forest. Be there in 20. She quickly changed into walking boots and a warm sweater, grabbing a small sketchbook and a few pencils. The air was crisp and smelled of damp earth and fallen leaves, a scent she adored. When she arrived at the meeting point, a small, moss-covered stone bridge, Leo was already there, leaning against the railing, gazing down at the gurgling creek. He wore a practical hiking jacket, and the sunlight caught the gentle curve of his smile as he saw her approach. "Elara, glad you could make it. The forest is really putting on a show today." He gestured to the canopy of trees, their leaves blazing in a riot of red, orange, and gold. "It's magnificent," she agreed, breathing in the cool, invigorating air. "And yes, definitely in need of inspiration for Barnaby. My trees are looking rather sad and uninspired." They set off along a winding path, the fallen leaves crunching softly under their feet. Leo, with his scientist's eye, pointed out different species of trees, explaining how certain fungi help them communicate, or how a particular moss grew only on the north side of a trunk. Wool. Elara, with her artist's eye, saw the intricate patterns of bark, the way the light dappled through the leaves, the hidden nooks and crannies that might make a perfect badger burrow. "Look at this old oak," Leo said, stopping beside a truly ancient tree, its branches gnarled and thick as a man's torso. "It's probably been standing here for hundreds of years, seen countless seasons, countless creatures. Think of the stories it could tell." Elara's eyes widened, a spark igniting within her. "It's magnificent, the texture of the bark alone, and the way the light filters through its lower branches. This is it, Leo. This is Barnaby's forest." She quickly pulled out her sketchbook, her fingers flying across the page, capturing the grandeur of the oak, the quiet dignity of the ancient forest. Leo watched her work, a soft, contemplative expression on his face. He loved seeing her in her element, completely absorbed, her passion radiating from her. Her concentration was intense, yet he knew she was still aware of him, occasionally glancing up to share a detail or a thought. "You have a way of seeing the magic in things, Elara," he remarked, his voice low. She looked up, a faint smile on her lips. "And you have a way of explaining the science behind the magic, making it even more wonderful." They continued their walk, their conversation a comfortable blend of observations, anecdotes, and quiet reflection. Elara found herself sharing more about her childhood, growing up in a bustling city but always dreaming of quiet spaces and wild places. She spoke of her journey to becoming an illustrator, the struggles and the triumphs. Leo, in turn, opened up about his own path, his early fascination with the night sky, his decision to pursue a life dedicated to understanding the universe. He spoke of the awe he felt every single day, looking up at the stars, and the quiet satisfaction of contributing to humanity's knowledge. "It sounds like a very solitary pursuit," Elara ventured, as they rested on a fallen log, sharing a thermos of hot apple cider she had brought. "All that dedication, it must leave little room for her?" Leo took a sip of cider, his gaze distant for a moment. "It can be, yes. My work often demands long hours, and the observatory is quite isolated. I've always been content with my own company and the company of the stars. But," he turned to her, his eyes serious, "lately, I found myself looking forward to sharing things, explaining a new discovery, or simply enjoying the quiet moments. It's a different kind of richness I'm discovering." Elara felt her heart swell. His words were a gentle confession, a quiet acknowledgement of the space she was beginning to occupy in his life. "I know what you mean," she replied softly. "Moving here away from the city, I was looking for peace, for inspiration. I found it in the quiet, in my work. But there's a different kind of joy in sharing that peace, in finding someone who understands it." Their eyes met, a profound understanding passing between them. It was more than just a shared walk in the woods. It was a shared journey into deeper emotional territory. The air grew cooler as the sun began its descent, casting long, golden shadows through the trees. But Elara felt a radiating warmth from within. As they walked back towards the bridge, the forest seemed to hum with a new kind of energy. The ancient trees, the rustling leaves, the gentle murmur of the creek, it all felt alive, vibrant, filled with potential. "Thank you for this, Leo," Elara said as they reached her car. "This walk, this conversation. It's given Barnaby's forest exactly what it needed. And me too." Leo smiled, a genuine, heartwarming smile. "My pleasure, Elara. I always enjoy our time together. Perhaps next time we could explore the old mill by the river. I hear the wildflowers are still out in patches." "I'd like that very much," Elara replied, a sense of quiet joy settling in her heart. She knew with a certainty that was both comforting and exhilarating that their story, like the ancient forests they had explored, was still unfolding, branch by beautiful branch, under the watchful, wondrous gaze of the stars. The days that followed painted themselves in hues of soft green and dappled sunlight, each encounter with Liam adding another brushstroke to the emerging masterpiece of Elara's life. The old mill, true to Liam's word, was a symphony of wild beauty. Rust-colored timber stood sentinel over a gurgling stream, and patches of wildflowers, purple vetch, goldenrod, and delicate white Queen Anne's lace, clustered like jewels along the banks. Liam, with his easy grace, pointed out the subtle differences in the flora, his voice a low, melodic hum that Elara found herself increasingly drawn to. He told her stories of the mill's past, of the families who had worked it, their lives woven into the very fabric of the landscape. Elara, in turn, shared her own observations, her quiet wonder mirroring his own appreciation for the historical whisperings carried on the breeze. Their conversations flowed effortlessly, like the stream beside them, meandering through topics both profound and lighthearted. They spoke of books and dreams, of childhood memories, and the quiet moments that shaped a soul. Liam revealed his work as a landscape architect, his passion for blending human design with nature's inherent artistry. He showed her sketches, intricate and beautiful, of gardens designed to invite pollinators, of public spaces that felt like secret groves. Elara found herself enchanted by his vision, by the way he saw the world not just as it was, but as it could be, harmoniously. Elara, for her part, slowly unveiled her own quiet world. She worked as a librarian in the small town, a role she cherished for its connection to stories and knowledge. But her true passion lay in painting. In the evenings after the library closed, she would retreat to her cozy cottage, transforming blank canvases into vibrant landscapes inspired by the very places she explored with Liam. She hadn't shown her art to many, a lingering shyness holding her back, but the thought of sharing it with Liam stirred a hopeful flutter in her chest. One blustery afternoon, when the threat of rain hung heavy in the air, Liam arrived at her cottage door, a wicker basket in hand and a sheepish grin on his face. "Thought a change of scenery might be in order," he said, gesturing to the darkening sky. "And perhaps some indoor exploration?" Elara, surprised but delighted, invited him in. Her cottage, small and filled with books and art supplies, was a haven of quiet comfort. The air smelled of old paper and lavender. She watched as Liam's gaze drifted over her bookshelves, his fingers tracing the spines of well-loved volumes. He paused at a stack of canvases propped against a wall, covered with a drop cloth. "What's under here?" he asked, his voice gentle. Elara's heart did a little flip. This was it. My paintings," she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. "It's a bit of a mess." Liam chuckled softly. "I doubt that very much." He waited, his gaze warm and patient, giving her the space to decide. Taking a deep breath, Elara pulled back the cloth. The canvases burst forth with color: a sun-drenched meadow, a winding river under a twilight sky, the ancient forest bathed in autumn gold. Each one vibrated with the quiet magic of the natural world, infused with Elara's unique perspective. Liam moved closer, his expression shifting from curiosity to genuine awe. He knelt before one painting, his finger hovering inches from the canvas, as if afraid to disturb the delicate illusion. "Elara," he breathed, his voice thick with emotion. "These are extraordinary. You capture the very soul of these places." He looked up at her, his eyes shining. "This one," he said, pointing to a depiction of the ancient forest, light filtering through the canopy. "It's how I feel when I'm there. You've seen it, truly seen it." His praise, so heartfelt and sincere, was a balm to her shy artist's heart. A warmth spread through her, chasing away years of self-doubt. In that moment, sharing her most vulnerable passion, Elara felt a profound connection, a recognition that went beyond words. From that day, their bond deepened with astonishing speed. They began to spend evenings together, sharing simple meals in Elara's cozy kitchen, talking for hours until the moon climbed high in the sky. Liam would bring over interesting articles about sustainable design or rare plants, and Elara would read him passages from her favorite novels, their voices weaving together in the quiet domesticity. He often helped her carry her canvases when she ventured out to paint en plein air, offering insightful observations that sharpened her eye. He even surprised her with a new set of brushes, carefully chosen, a gesture that spoke volumes. One evening, after a particularly long day at the library, Elara felt a weariness settle deep in her bones. She arrived home to find a small, rustic wooden birdhouse hanging on her porch, intricately carved with tiny leaves and berries. Beside it, tucked into a knot in the wood, was a single, perfect bluebell. A note, in Liam's elegant script, simply read, "Yishio, the quiet moments. L. P." A wave of pure affection washed over her. He saw her, truly saw her, not just the bright moments but the tired ones too, and sought to bring beauty and comfort to them all. Their first kiss happened under a sky ablaze with stars, after a picnic by the river. The air was cool and crisp, carrying the scent of damp earth and late-blooming honeysuckle. They lay on a blanket, pointing out constellations, their shoulders brushing. Elara felt a tingle spread through her arm, a silent electric current. Liam turned his head, his gaze meeting hers, and for a long moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. His eyes, usually so bright with curiosity, softened, filled with a tenderness that made her heart ache in the best possible way. He reached out, his hand gently cupping her cheek, his thumb stroking her skin. Then, slowly, as if not to startle a delicate bird, he leaned in. His lips were soft and warm, a gentle exploration that quickly deepened into something more profound, a silent promise whispered between breaths. It was a kiss that tasted of starlight and wildflowers, of quiet understanding and blossoming hope. Weeks turned into months, each one weaving their lives more intricately together. They celebrated small victories and offered comfort during minor setbacks. Elara found herself relying on Liam's steady presence, his calm wisdom, and his boundless enthusiasm. Liam, in turn, confided in Elara, sharing the pressures of his work, the dreams he held for his designs, and the occasional frustrations of a world that didn't always value nature as he did. Her quiet encouragement became his anchor, her belief in him a constant source of strength. They talked about the future, not in grand, sweeping statements, but in small, intimate ways. Liam would casually mention, "When we plant a garden together," or Elara would muse about our next adventure. These seemingly innocuous phrases held the weight of unspoken promises, creating a tapestry of shared dreams that grew richer with each passing day. Then came the offer. Elara received an email from a prestigious art gallery in a bustling city 3 states away, inviting her to showcase her landscape paintings. A local art critic had stumbled upon her work during a community exhibition and had been captivated. It was an incredible opportunity, a chance to share her art with a wider audience, to step into a new, exciting chapter of her artistic journey. But it also meant leaving. Leaving her cozy cottage, leaving the library, and most terrifyingly, leaving Liam. She showed him the email, her hands trembling slightly. They were sitting on her porch swing, the birdhouse Liam had made now home to a family of wrens, their cheerful chirps filling the air. Liam read it slowly, his brow furrowed in concentration. When he finished, he looked at her, his expression unreadable. "Elara," he said, his voice soft. "This is truly wonderful, an incredible honor." "But," she began, her voice catching, "it's so far. And," she gestured vaguely around them, encompassing their shared world, the forest, the river, him. He reached for her hand, his fingers intertwining with hers. "And you're worried about Sirius?" It wasn't a question. Tears welled in her eyes. "I've never pursued my art like this, not really. It's always been a private joy. But this, it feels like it's meant to be. Yet the thought of leaving all this, leaving you..." She trailed off, unable to articulate the depth of her fear. Liam squeezed her hand, his thumb stroking her knuckles. "Elara," he said, his gaze steady and unwavering. "Your art is a part of you, a beautiful, vital part. To deny this opportunity would be to deny a piece of your soul, and I could never ask you to do that." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Distance is just that, Elara, distance. It doesn't change what we have here." He tapped her chest lightly, or here he touched his own. "If anything, it will only show us how strong it is." He leaned closer, his eyes searching hers. "I love you, Elara. I love your quiet strength, your fierce passion for beauty, your gentle heart. I love the way you see the world, and the way you make Amy world brighter. And if this opportunity is what you need to truly blossom, then I will cheer you on every step of the way. We'll find a way to make it work. Phone calls, video chats, weekend visits. We'll make it an adventure, just like everything else." His words, so full of love and unwavering support, dissolved her fears like morning mist. The tears that fell now were tears of relief, of profound gratitude. He wasn't holding her back, he was giving her wings. Over the next few weeks, they meticulously planned. Liam helped her pack her canvases, carefully wrapping each one. He researched train schedules and affordable flights, even offering to drive her to the city himself for the exhibition's opening night. Their goodbyes were bittersweet, filled with promises and long, lingering kisses. The exhibition was a resounding success. Elara's paintings, with their evocative portrayals of the natural world, captivated critics and art lovers alike. She found herself swept up in a whirlwind of interviews and new connections. Yet, through it all, her thoughts often drifted back to the quiet beauty of her old life, to the comfort of Liam's presence. They spoke every day, sometimes for hours, sometimes just a quick text message to say, "Good morning" or "Good night." Liam sent her photos of the forest, the river, the old mill, reminding her of the places that inspired her. He even began sending her small, carefully pressed wildflowers in letters, each one a tiny, tangible piece of home. One crisp autumn weekend, Liam surprised her. She was in her temporary studio, working on a new piece inspired by the city's vibrant energy, when her phone buzzed. It was a photo of the ancient forest, bathed in golden light, the leaves a riot of crimson and gold. And in the foreground, standing beneath their favorite towering oak, was Liam, holding up a small hand-carved wooden sign. It read, "Missing you, and wondering if you'd consider planting roots here, with me." Instinct. Elara's heart pounded. She called him immediately, her voice choked with emotion. "Liam, what is this?" His voice was warm and tender. "It's a question, Elira. A very important one. I know you're thriving there, and I'm so proud of you. But I've realized something profound. My world, my work, my joy. It feels incomplete without you by my side. I want to build a life with you, here, where our story began. A life filled with shared adventures, quiet evenings, and the beauty we both share." He took a deep breath. "I've been working on a project, a design for a small eco-friendly house, nestled on the edge of the forest, overlooking the river. There's a space for your studio, a garden for your flowers, and a porch swing where we can watch the stars. It's a dream I've held for a long time, but now is a dream for you. So, Elira, my love, will you come home? Will you plant those roots with me?" Tears streamed down Elara's face, but they were tears of pure, unadulterated joy. The thought of that house, that garden, that life with Liam was everything she had ever quietly longed for. The city had been exhilarating, a necessary step, but her heart knew where it truly belonged. "Yes," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Yes, Liam, 1,000 times yes, I'm coming home." Within a few weeks, Elira was back in their tranquil corner of the world. She still took commissions from the gallery, her art now recognized and sought after, but her home and her heart were firmly rooted beside Liam. The house he had designed was even more beautiful than she could have imagined. A harmonious blend of wood and stone, sunlight and shadow, perfectly integrated into the landscape. Her studio was a haven of light, with large windows looking out onto the nascent garden they were planning together. The day they officially moved into their new home was a celebration of quiet joy. They spent the afternoon unpacking, their laughter echoing through the empty rooms. As evening approached, Liam led Elira to the porch, where he had already set up the swing. The sun was dipping below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery oranges and soft purples. He pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her, their bodies settling into a familiar, comforting embrace. The scent of pine and damp earth filled the air, carried on a gentle breeze. "Look, Elira," he murmured, his chin resting on her head, "our very own masterpiece, unfolding branch by beautiful branch." Elira leaned into him, her heart overflowing. She looked at the burgeoning garden, at the silhouette of the ancient forest against the twilight sky, at the river shimmering silver in the distance. And she looked at Liam, his profile etched against the fading light, his eyes reflecting the quiet wonder of the world around them. "It's more beautiful than I ever dreamed," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you, Liam, for seeing me, for loving me, for building this with me." He kissed the top of her head, a tender, possessive gesture. "My pleasure, Elira, always. And this is just the beginning. There are so many more adventures waiting for us, so many more branches to unfurl." As the first stars began to prickle the deepening indigo sky, Elira closed her eyes, a profound sense of peace settling over her. She knew, with a certainty that resonated deep within her soul, that their story, like the ancient forest that watched over them, was now firmly rooted, growing stronger and more beautiful with each passing season, under the watchful, wondrous gaze of the stars. It was a story of two souls, perfectly intertwined, finding their true home, not just in a place, but in each other. And as Liam held her close, she drifted into a contented sleep, cradled by love, by nature, and by the promise of an endlessly unfolding tomorrow.